Hi there, Tracy here with a contest challenge from Tombow. I'm going to be doing a process video today using Tombow products. They sent me a big package of all sorts of wonderful adhesive, that some of which I use regularly and some of which I had never had a chance to use. So stay tuned at the end for details on how you can enter the contest and win yourself a package of Tombow adhesive products. Right now I'm looking through the Scraptastic Kit Club kit for July, which is called Summertime Rolls, and I'm just having a look through the pattern paper, looking for some papers that will coordinate with this photo of a baby. It's my brand new nephew Jude. He's so adorable. It's a picture of my daughter holding him. I just switched it to black and white before I scrapbooked it because it had all sorts of non-babyish colors, like a really dark brownish red coat and lots of competing colors going on there, and I just wanted to tone it down and make it all about the baby and less about, and my daughter, and less about, competition of colors and that sort of thing. So I'm using my trimmer here just to trim down. This is going to be my background paper. Actually, the white piece is going to be my background paper, but I'm going to mat it in that polka dotted paper from crepe paper. And so this white cardstock, I just trimmed 1/4 of an inch off of either side, just 2 adjacent sides, and that gives me a smaller piece of paper, which will be matted by this larger piece of paper. Now I do plan to use that pattern in the layout, so I just cut out the middle part of it because most of it's going to be covered by the white paper, so by the white cardstock. So before I sew my white cardstock onto the polka dotted mat, I'm just going to run this Tim Holtz distressing tool all the way around the edges of it so that it just gives it a little bit of texture and interest. I really like that look, and I haven't done it for a while, so I decided to do it today. I just keep a little table brush, and I just brush all of my scraps and stuff right onto the floor, and then every once in a while I sweep. So I'm just going to use my grid mat here to line up my paper, my background paper, so that I can adhere my white piece pretty easily. What I'm using here is the Tombow Stamp Runner dot adhesive. It can be used as a regular tape runner as well as to stamp some dot adhesive onto your item. So right there, I just used it as a regular tape runner, and through the magic of video, my sewing is already done. So after I adhered the white cardstock onto my mat, I just brought it over to my sewing machine and used some blue thread to just sew it right onto the mat. And so here are some of the papers that I plan to layer together. I have this blue piece of pattern paper. It's actually a pattern paper, but it looks like a plain piece of cardstock. It has a bit of a watercolor texture to the paper. And then I have that dotted chevron pattern from the inside of the mat. And what I'm using here is just it's just a couple of the Tombow dual brush pens, and these have a brush pen on one end and then a fine tip on the other end, and I have a blue and a green, and I've just scribbled them right onto the blending palette, which is it comes in the Tombow blending kit. And so and then I used my Tombow mister and added some water to that, and then I'm just picking up some of the color with that blue piece of pattern paper, and it just creates a watercolor effect. It's really pretty. It makes the paper a lot more interesting than it was when it was just plain. And when I was wiping it off, I noticed that the back of the blending palette actually has a catalog of all of the Tombow colors, or what I'm guessing are all of the Tombow colors that the dual brush pens come in. So that's kind of handy to have as well. So I'm just going to use my heat gun to set that ink on my paper, and it doesn't take too long, and the paper does roll up a little bit, and that's okay. If I was really concerned about it, if you blow it on the other side, if you just heat it on the other side, it does tend to unroll a little bit, but I don't mind it looking rolled up because I tend to curl up the edges of my paper anyways. So I'm going to cut this chevron polka dot paper so that it's just a little bit bigger than the watercolored paper that I had made with the dual brush pens. And I just grabbed this piece of newsprint waxy tissue paper. It's quite waxy, which sometimes causes me problems. I often don't scrapbook with this stuff, even though I really love it. It's nice and clear, and like it's transparent, so you can see layers between it. I'm just grabbing some doilies out of my little doily drawer there. I really love that newsprint, but it's waxy, and I've had a difficult time getting it to stick to papers when I scrapbook. But I have the Tombow Extreme Permanent Adhesive to use today, so I thought I would really try it out and challenge the product as well as myself by trying it on something that I know is really difficult to stick. So, and you'll get to see that a little bit later. This is a piece of exclusive Scraptastic Kit Club paper. It came in the kit. And so I just cut it so that it was both beginning and ending on a blue piece, because I want the blue to be more dominant than the pink, because it is a picture of a little boy that I'm scrapbooking. So that's about it for my layers. And then the kit also came with these really cute little die-cut pieces of vellum, and they would look really cute arranged in an argyle pattern, but I'm not going to do that. I thought I might use it as a bit of an embellishment up in the top corner. So there I am using that that's that Tombow Extreme Permanent Adhesive, and I'm using it on all of my layers that I suspect might not stick very well. So that foiled doily is one of them, and now I'm also going to use it on this waxy tissue paper, and it does end up sticking perfectly. I did pull it off right away before I burnished it just to readjust it, but it was a little bit forgiving with me, but it definitely stuck really well once I had committed to it being there. So I used a combination on the regular paper stuff that I wasn't expecting to have a difficult time sticking. I used the Tombow Stamp Runner dot adhesive, and then on the items that I suspected might have a difficult time sticking, I used the Tombow Extreme Permanent adhesive. Now I'm just going in with some Tombow 3D foam tabs, and I'm adding them everywhere that I want a little bit of lift, and I'm just leaving the little the non-adhesive backings on them so that I can still go in and stick in other things in between my layers. And that's just something that I typically do, is I just leave the backing on those 3D foam tabs when I use them, and that way I have lots of options for sticking other things in. So I just showed you the layers there up close for a second, and now I'm going to do my title, because my title is going to be the next most dominant thing besides the photo, so I want to make sure that I have room for it. I just tear off a piece of wax paper. I keep a roll in my scrap room, and I'm deciding I'm going to have to move over the word hey, because I want Jude centered under it, and I had put hey too close to the edge, so I needed to move it a little bit more centered in the wax paper. And I love these letter stickers. They are called Campfire, I think. Let me just grab the package here. Yes, they're called Campfire Thickers, and they came in the kit as well. And that's the Scraptastic Summertime Rolls kit, and they're like a wood grain chipboard, but I really love the font, and I especially love the J, so I'm really happy to get to use it in the word Jude. I don't know if my sister had that in mind when she named her baby, that, the letter J would look really nice on my scrapbooking layouts. Probably not. So I want the E to end on the edge of this watercolored paper that I made with the Tombow dual brush pens. And so I just arranged it. I worked backwards from the E. And now I want the word hey to be centered. So I started with the center letter, which is E. And there we go. So there's my title in place. And now I am going to run it through my sewing machine. So I'm going to take this stuff off. Even though I did use that extreme permanent adhesive, I was a little worried that maybe I wouldn't be able to pull off the layers. But as you see, I was able to. It was pretty hard, but I did get it pulled off, and I didn't rip the doily or the paper on top. So that's good to know. A lot of times really strong adhesive is not very forgiving. This one is both strong and forgiving. So I'm really, really pleased with that. that, I will definitely be getting more of this and adding it to my regular arsenal of adhesive supplies that I use. I love that stuff, that Tombow Extreme Permanent Adhesive. So once I did my sewing, as you saw, I just trimmed off the little ends on the threads and re-glued my layers back in place the way they were, using more of that extreme adhesive. And now I'm just playing around with some of the other die cuts and little pieces that I might like to layer together. I did take a flare badge from my stash just because the flare badge that came in the Scraptastic kit this month were very themed towards summer. And although the baby was born in the summer, this layout is more about the baby than the fact that it's summertime. So I just grabbed a flare badge from my stash. So I'm just sticking some of the die cuts that came in the kit. There were 2 whole packages of die cuts in this kit, so there were lots and lots to choose from. I thought the surfboard, because it had the craft color on it, it kind of offset the brown, the light brown in like the wood grain color of the words "Hey Jude." So I put it kind of over on the other side of the photo. And the balloons are nice because people, bring balloons when you have a baby. And I'm just going to layer things so that there are pieces on top of the papers and pieces stuck in between the layers of paper as well. So you see right here, I have this documented ticket, and I just used some more of that Tombow Extreme Permanent Adhesive to stick that in place. And now I'm going to, once I adjust it a little bit, I'm going to stick these balloons in place, but it's kind of tricky. So I wanted to line up with both the documented and the Y in a particular way. So I'm using liquid glue for this. And that just allows me to scooch it around a little bit while the glue is still liquid before it dries. And so that gives me a little bit more flexibility with placement. And so what I used there, really quickly, it's gone now, but I used the Tombow Mono Aqua liquid adhesive. So I'm going to stick this surfboard in place. I just used the Tombow Stamp Runner dot adhesive for that, and that's quite forgiving as well. It lets me kind of pick it up and replace it a couple of different times. And I'm going to layer both the vellum diamond here and the flare badge. And so before I do that, I'm being a little bit fussy here. There were a lot of vertical lines competing, and so I just covered up part of the red with the blue line from the mat. Here I'm using the Tombow glue pen, which has the same glue inside it as the Tombow Mono Aqua adhesive liquid glue. And it's really great for little fiddly pieces where you'd want the glue to go in exactly the right place. And for this part, where I'm just adhering the flare badge in place, I'm just using a Tombow adhesive dot. And I really love that they don't come on a roll. That's one of my favorite things about those adhesive dots. So just kind of gluing a few things down in place here. And again, I'm going to use my Stamp Runner dot adhesive for this embellishment right here, the one with the heart and the little scalloped edge. So most things when I'm gluing paper to paper, I'm using the Stamp Runner dot adhesive. And then when it's tricky things, I'll use either the liquid adhesive or one of the other specialty ones like the Tombow Extreme Permanent Adhesive. Just did my journaling there in one of the dual brush pens, but it wasn't quite the right color that I wanted it to be, so I just went back with another one of the dual brush pens in a different color, and I'm using the fine tip end for this and just redid my journaling right over top. I'm again using some more of that Tombow Extreme Permanent Adhesive to stick this one in place. Just because it's on the watercolor paper, I wasn't sure exactly how it would stick, and I had it close at hand, so I decided to use that one. And now I'm going to go ahead and place my diamonds up in the top corner. I'm going to overlap them a little bit, and I'm also going to layer that little die cut journaling piece from the kit, as well as the arrow. So Now that I know how they're going to go, I'm just taking, again, my Tombow glue pen, and I'm going to take each piece and put a tiny bit of glue. This glue is fairly strong, so you don't have to use very much. It does dry clear, so you're not going to see it under the vellum anyways, but it's nice to just be able to put a little piece on and be confident that it's going to hold. There you go. Those three are kind of overlapped and in place. I love my glue pens. I've been using glue pens forever, and I really love them for these sorts of little fiddly jobs. So I think I'm going to get a pen for this, or a date stamp or something. I don't know where I went, but... Oh yes, I know where I went. I went to look up how much the baby weighed when he was born. So 9 pounds, 3.5 ounces. He was a big boy. And I'm just grabbing my Chamel roller date stamp and putting the date of his birth, and I'm just stamping it in, I can't remember which color of blue. It's a navy blue by Stampin' Up. And there's an example of another way that you can use the Stamp Runner dot adhesive. So if you hold it vertically instead of on a 45-degree angle, you can just stamp down and get a little stamp of dots. And here is another way that you can use that Tombow Stamp Runner dot adhesive. I'm going to show it to you in just a second. I want to stick down this arrow, but it is very, very thin, much thinner than any tape runner would be. And so this is where having your tape runner be dots is really, really helpful. And so I'm just going to run it just like I would with any other tape runner, and you see how some of it is on the paper and some of it is on the die cut arrow. When I pick up the arrow, the extra adhesive, because it's in the form of dots, it sticks to the background paper instead of coming up and hanging off the edges of my arrow. So now the arrow has a nice crisp edge of adhesive all around it, and I don't have to try to loop any extra pieces of adhesive off from the edges or wipe them off at this point. So that's what I really love about a dot runner. And I've been having a really hard time finding dot runners lately. I don't know if it's just my particular craft store or what, but I haven't been able to find it. So I was really happy to get that in my design team kit. So here I go again, putting another one of the stamp. I just kind of stamped again with the Stamp Dot Adhesive Runner by Tombow, and then I just topped off that little flower with an enamel dot. So the fact that Tombow Stamp Runner dot adhesive can be used either as a regular tape runner or as a stamp really helps in terms of if you want to just get the adhesive on a certain area. And here I'm going to use the Tombow 3D foam tabs to just put those butterflies the way that I want them. Those are just stick pin butterflies. And I love to adhere stick pins to layouts using 3D foam tabs adhesive because it holds them exactly in place. You do have to be a little bit careful. I will do it again for the other butterflies. So you saw me do it with the two. I got them at the angles that I wanted them, and then I just tuck the 3D foam tab right in underneath one of the layers. So here I go again. If you missed that the first time, I just stick it through very carefully so I don't stick my finger, and then I just put the tab under the paper that I'm working with. And if I change my mind about the length of the butterfly of the pin, I can, and I think I'm going to do that. I think you'll see me do that in a second. So again, I'm taking those Tombow adhesive dots and I'm just sticking one of them. The nice thing about those adhesive dots is that they're stretchy. I know this happened out of screen, so sorry about that, but they're stretchy, so you can actually take them off of the backing and stretch them out, and that's what I did. I just spread it across the back of that bow tie, which is from my stash. It's a Maggie Holmes embellishment. And then these are Stampin' Up! Embellishments. They're little flowers, the little resin flowers. They're called dahlias. And I'm using my Tombow Mono Multi Liquid Glue for these. And this is, you guys see me use this stuff all the time. I use it for any kind of non-paper embellishments that I put on my layouts. I almost always use Tombow Mono Multi-Liquid Glue. So I did decide to use my tiny attacher just to attach that. It was more for design than for actually attaching that journaling piece up at the top. Then I just made tiny little pencil marks. Well, they're not tiny, but I made little pencil marks. They're underneath of the layout so that they just roughly let me know where the edge of the layout will be. I have my Tombow blending palette here, and I'm going to use my dual brush pens to make some splatters. So what I'm doing here is I'm just getting some blue ink, and then I just mist it with my Tombow mister, and then I picked it up with an already wet paintbrush. If your paintbrush is dry, then it'll soak up all the color and there won't be much left to drip. So I like my paintbrush to already be dry, and then when you pick up the color, it just drips right off the brush. And this came out very, very pale, which was my intention, to have the first round of color be very pale, so I added lots of water to it. This next one I didn't add very much water to at all, so it gives me a bit of a deeper color of blue. And I'm just cleaning my palette, and I am drying it quickly with a heat gun just because it doesn't soak into the cardstock quite as well as it would into pattern paper. So like any kind of mist or spray, it takes a little bit of time to dry on cardstock. So I'm just using my heat gun to dry that up, and I want it really dry before I switch to the next one because the next one is going to be a different color and I don't want the colors to blend. So now I'm using a green dual brush pen, and again the Tombow mister and just a little bit of the mist, and I'm just splattering it with and that's just regular water in the mister, by the way. And then I'm just cleaning it up with a baby wipe, and then I'll dry it again with my heat gun. And I found that the Tombow dual brush pens, along with the blending palette and the spray mister, made really pretty splatter. They provide a really good alternative to store-bought misters, and they give kind of like a watercolory type of a look to them. So they're a little bit more translucent than other mist sprays are. And they just have like a really nice splatter to them. See how they really splash and you get that little bit of splatter, as opposed to them landing in perfect circles. Like sometimes some of the thicker mists will do that. So I really like this look. I'm going to be doing it more often. So here are some of the, just I guess a close-up video shot of all of the different parts of this layout. I also have some photos at the end if you want to hang around till the end. So if you would like to participate in the Tombow Challenge and be entered to win a Tombow prize pack that includes some of the Tombow products that I used in this video, all you have to do is make a project that uses at least 2 Tombow products and upload it. Follow the link in the information section for this video to find out all the details and how to participate. The contest runs from July 29th till August 19th, 2015. So thanks so much for watching my process video today, and thank you to Tombow USA for providing the adhesive that I used in this layout and for this project. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them in the comments section below, and I hope that you all have a really great scrappy week. And enter the contest because it's a really great one and you can win some fun products. So again, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.